The North Sea, cold, dark, and brutal. Imagine standing on a cliff as the horizon fills with sails. Not 10 ships, not 100, but 10,000 Viking longships stretching as far as the eye can see. Oars beating like war drums, warriors howling Odin's name, their shields flashing in the sun. It looks less like a fleet and more like a moving continent of wood and fury. Entire kingdoms once collapsed at the sight of a few dozen of these ships. Now, multiply that by 10,000. This isn't just an invasion, it's the apocalypse on water. And against all of that, one ship, a single modern warship. No fleet to back it up, no aircraft carriers on the horizon, no reinforcements, just one lone destroyer. 9,000 tons of steel, radar, missiles, and enough firepower to erase a city. On one side, berserkers with axes and longbows packed shoulder to shoulder on wooden boats. On the other side, a floating computer armed with weapons designed to fight entire navies. It's David and Goliath, if David had GPS, surface-to-air missiles, and a radar system that can see through storms. The question is insane, but irresistible. Could a single modern warship survive a battle against 10,000 Viking longships? On paper, it looks like a joke. After all, how do you compare arrows to tomahawk missiles, or a wooden shield to a phalanx CIWS spitting 75 rounds per second? But here's the twist. The Vikings don't care about on paper. They don't care about logic or numbers or physics. They care about Valhalla. To them, dying in battle isn't failure. It's an upgrade. So when faced with explosions, radar-guided weapons, and machine guns that chew through wood like a beaver on caffeine, the Vikings won't retreat. They'll row harder, and that's where things get messy. Sure, the warship has the advantage of technology, but technology has limits. Ammunition runs out, systems fail, crews get tired, and no amount of computer software looks calm when 10,000 screaming Norsemen are trying to turn your billion-dollar destroyer into an oversized souvenir. So today, we push history to the breaking point. We pit the most advanced warship on Earth against the greatest Viking fleet ever imagined. 10,000 longships versus one lonely titan of steel. The outcome? Absolute madness. Let's dive in. This isn't just a ship. It's a time traveler wearing steel armor. While Viking longships creak with wood and tar, this modern warship hums with engines generating enough power to light an entire city. To the Vikings, it would look less like a vessel and more like a floating fortress sent by angry gods. Its radar doesn't just see ships. It sees the future. Targets appear on screens miles before a Viking lookout even squints at the horizon. Its cannons can track a moving boat the size of a wagon while sipping coffee. And then there are the missiles. Sleek, precise, fire-and-forget monsters that fly faster than anything Odin ever dreamed of, each one capable of turning a longship into splinters before the Vikings even lift their oars. And let's not forget the close-range defenses. Automated guns spitting thousands of rounds per minute, shredding arrows out of the sky like confetti at the world's worst parade. To the crew, this is routine. To a Viking, it would look like sorcery so unfair that even Loki would complain. But the real weapon isn't just the steel and the firepower, it's the crew. Dozens of trained sailors and officers, drilled to operate like one brain in many bodies. Calm, efficient, and utterly unimpressed by the idea of 10,000 angry men in dragon-painted boats. So now the stage is set. A single modern warship, armed with technology centuries ahead of its time, facing a Viking fleet so massive it could block out the sun. One side brings rage, the other brings science, steel, and sarcasm. Let's see which one floats. 10,000 Viking longships, stretching across the horizon like a forest of sails, each one packed with warriors who grew up knowing only two things: fight and feast. To them, the sea isn't just water. It's a highway to plunder, and today that highway leads straight to their greatest raid. The fleet moves like a living beast. Oars pound in rhythm, drums thunder from ship to ship, and voices rise in chants to Odin. Imagine the ground-shaking roar of a stadium crowd, but armed with axes and absolutely no interest in sportsmanship. That's what this warship is staring down. Every longship carries its own nightmare. Shield walls ready to absorb arrows, spears meant to pierce armor, and berserkers painted head to toe, screaming as if they already have a reservation in Valhalla. They don't come with tactics or radar. They come with 10,000 screaming reasons why numbers sometimes beat brains. And the psychology is just as terrifying. These men don't fear death, they invite it. Every fallen warrior is another feast in Odin's hall. To them, charging a modern warship with a wooden boat isn't insane. It's destiny. From the cliffs it looks unstoppable. A black tide of sails and dragons, a storm of muscle and iron pushing forward without hesitation. For the Vikings, this is just another raid. For the crew of the warship, it looks less like a battle and more like trying to mow the lawn during a hurricane. Good luck keeping up. The Vikings row harder, the rhythm of oars pounding like war drums across the sea. To them, the lone silhouette of the modern warship looks like just another oversized target, perhaps a rich prize filled with treasure. They shout, they chant, they prepare to swarm it. But inside the warship, the crew doesn't chant. They calculate. Radar screens glow, locking onto the swarm of wooden boats long before the Vikings even realize they're in range. Fingers rest on triggers, not swords. And then, the order is given. The first missile launches with a roar that shakes the sky. A Viking lookout blinks in confusion as a streak of fire cuts across the heavens. A heartbeat later, one longship vanishes in an explosion of splinters and flame. Warriors are thrown into the water, screaming in disbelief. For them, the gods themselves just hurled lightning from the clouds. Seconds later, the cannons open up. High explosive shells rip through shields and hulls, turning entire ships into floating bonfires. To the Vikings, it's sorcery. To the sailors, it's Tuesday. Still, the fleet doesn't stop. For every ship destroyed, a dozen push forward, their warriors howling louder to drown their fear. Arrows are loosed, rocks hurled, desperate attempts to strike back with weapons that barely scratch the steel giant. From above, it's chaos. One ship against a swarm, fire and smoke spreading across the waves. The first contact has been made, and it's already the bloodiest day the Vikings have ever seen at sea. The North Sea turns into a graveyard, where proud Viking longships once sailed in perfect formation, now burning wrecks scatter across the waves. Plumes of black smoke climb into the sky, mixing with the sound of cracking timber and the screams of warriors thrown overboard. Every few seconds, another missile slams down like the fist of Thor himself, except this thunder doesn't come from the gods. It comes from steel tubes and computer screens. A single cannon blast tears through 3 ships at once, sending shields and spears flying like toothpicks. From the deck of the warship, it's less a battle and more like deleting files on a computer. Click, and gone. But the Vikings don't stop. Even as fire consumes their fleet, survivors paddle toward the enemy, roaring louder, convinced that if they just row hard enough, Odin will close the gap for them. Some even leap into the water, trying to swim across the impossible distance. It's bravery, insanity, and stubbornness all rolled into one. From the warship's perspective, it's overwhelming. The radar screen looks like a video game glitch. Endless dots moving in every direction, no matter how many disappear. For every longship destroyed, a dozen more keep charging. The crew knows they're winning every exchange, but against 10,000 boats, winning still feels like bailing water from a sinking ship with a coffee cup. The sea itself has become chaos incarnate, fire, steel, and fury colliding in a storm no history book ever dared to imagine. The sea is on fire, but the Vikings refuse to quit. For every longship reduced to splinters, a dozen more push forward, their crews rowing until their hands bleed. Horns bellow across the smoke, and suddenly the fleet shifts. Instead of charging blindly, the Vikings spread wide, trying to surround the steel monster from all sides. Arrows rain down, a black storm against the sky. Most bounce harmlessly off the ship's armor, but the sheer volume is terrifying. Spears are hurled like javelins, clattering uselessly against steel hulls. Some longships, in sheer desperation, ram themselves into the warship's path, hoping to board it with axes and fury. To the crew, it looks less like a naval maneuver and more like the world's deadliest game of bumper cars. Then come the berserkers. Stripped to the waist, painted in blood, they stand at the bows of their ships howling like demons, ready to leap the moment they get close enough. To them, dying in this battle isn't defeat, it's the express ticket to Valhalla. For the warship's crew, it's a strange mix of comedy and dread. Yes, arrows can't pierce steel. Yes, oars can't outpace missiles. But when 10,000 men charge with blind rage, even the most advanced ship in history starts to feel the pressure. Sensors beep constantly. Targets flood the radar faster than they can be engaged. The crew knows they're winning, but they also know they're drowning in numbers. The Vikings may not have technology, but they have something almost as dangerous. They simply don't know when to stop. The crew has seen enough. Surrounded by thousands of longships closing in, the captain gives the order. Unleash everything. The warship roars to life. Vertical launch cells crack open, and missiles streak into the sky before curving down like fiery comets. Each impact is apocalyptic. One missile, one ship erased, sometimes 2 or 3 at once. Vikings look up in horror as fire rains from the heavens, convinced the gods themselves have turned against them. Then the cannons open fire. High explosive shells arc through the smoke, smashing into longships with thunder that rattles bones. Entire crews vanish in eruptions of fire and splinters. To the sailors, it's precision gunnery. To the Vikings, it's Ragnarok arriving 500 years ahead of schedule. Close-range defenses kick in next. Automated guns spew thousands of rounds per minute, shredding arrows mid-air before they ever reach the deck. It's like watching an invisible shield appear around the ship, except this shield spits hot lead. Arrows fall uselessly into the sea, turning what was meant to be a rain of death into something more like an expensive fireworks show. Helicopters lift off the deck, circling above with sensors and rockets, raining even more destruction onto the swarm below. Now the warship isn't just a fortress, it's a floating apocalypse machine. Yet, even in the face of this technological storm, the Viking fleet pushes forward. Burned, bloodied, and terrified, they still row harder, screaming Odin's name. Against such madness, even modern firepower begins to look like a temporary solution to an infinite problem. For hours, the warship has torn the Viking fleet apart, but even gods of steel have limits. Missile tubes that once spat fire now sit empty. Cannon barrels glow red from non-stop firing. The endless swarm of dots on radar hasn't vanished. It's multiplied. Against 10,000 ships, unlimited firepower suddenly feels very finite. The crew scrambles to ration what remains. Every missile becomes a question. Is this the ship we spend it on? Every shell must count. The automated guns, once spraying the sky with confidence, begin to overheat. Maintenance alarms scream louder than the enemy. And then there's the human factor. Sailors sweat through their uniforms, hands blistered, ears ringing from hours of constant thunder. Fatigue eats at discipline. One slip, one miscalculation, and a single longship could break through the defensive curtain. And the Vikings are waiting for exactly that moment. From the enemy's perspective, it's working. Despite losing thousands, the sight of the warship slowing its fire gives them hope. Horns bellow. Oars slam harder. More longships surge forward, some even on fire but still rowing, their crews determined to reach the beast before it kills them all. The warship still holds the advantage, but the illusion of invincibility has cracked. Numbers don't care about technology. Numbers don't tire. And as the sea grows darker with the shadow of Viking sails, the crew begins to realize the nightmare. They're running out of time, running out of ammo. And the enemy isn't running out of Vikings. The horizon is still thick with sails. Even after thousands of ships have been sunk, burned, or scattered, the Viking fleet refuses to die. For every vessel reduced to drifting ash, another closes in, rowing harder, screaming louder. The warship has reached its breaking point. Ammunition is low, guns are hot, and the crew knows they are down to their last stand. The Vikings sense it. Horns thunder across the waves, a call for the final charge. Hundreds of longships surge together, forming a wall of wood and fury. Berserkers stand at the bows, howling like demons ready to leap into the jaws of death. Arrows darken the sky, spears rain down, and for the first time, some ships close the distance. The warship responds with everything left. Missiles fire in desperate salvos, each one taking down another cluster of longships. Cannons bark until their barrels glow. Automated guns chatter non-stop, cutting through shields and sails like paper. But the swarm doesn't stop. Even burning, even sinking, Vikings leap into the sea and swim forward, axes raised above the waves as if Odin himself is pulling them. For the crew, every second feels like an eternity. Radios crackle with frantic reports. Port side closing fast. Ammo almost gone. We can't hold forever. It's not strategy anymore. It's survival. This is the decisive moment. One side is steel, science, and precision. The other is chaos, rage, and numbers that feel endless. The ocean shakes with fire and fury, and as the smoke thickens, Only one truth is clear. This battle will end here, in the next few heartbeats. And then, silence. Smoke drifts across the sea, hiding the true scale of the carnage. Where 10,000 Viking longships once filled the horizon, only wreckage remains. Shattered hulls, drifting shields, and the cries of survivors clinging to debris. The ocean that promised conquest has become their grave. The modern warship still floats, battered but unbroken. Its paint scorched, its guns nearly empty, but alive. Against impossible odds, one ship has held back the fury of an entire age. From the deck, the crew looks out over the endless wreckage, stunned by what they've done. It doesn't feel like victory. It feels like surviving a storm. For the Vikings, this day would live in legend. Tales of the iron fortress that spat fire and thunder would echo across mead halls for generations. Some would call it a demon, others, a god. None would forget the day rage met technology, and rage lost. So, what have we learned? Numbers alone can terrify, but precision and technology can rewrite the laws of battle. Still, the cost is clear. Even the most advanced weapons struggle against endless waves of human will. This is the story of one impossible battle, but it's not the only one. If you enjoyed this clash of eras, make sure to subscribe and join us for more insane what-if war scenarios. Because today it was a modern warship versus 10,000 Vikings, but tomorrow, history may face an even greater storm.